Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And Courtney, how are you?
I am okay. I'm sleepy. I'm excited and I'm sleepy. Um, it's been a long week. Rachel finally had her baby, so I'm very excited about that. But social media is a disaster, so that's pretty much all I'm gonna say about it.
Which is
But we're
valid.
very excited.
I just do want to say it's really funny because this episode is the first episode that will come out post her due date. So even though in our world it is earlier than we thought she was going to have the baby, it is
She
actually
did it at the exact right time.
at the perfect time. Nothing changed.
Yes.
Everything's great.
We are totally in the same universe as you guys.
Yeah. Cool.
That's so funny. No, so I've been running around like a crazy person doing stuff for that because we were working on our house and I was working and then like literally my days were I'm gonna go to work and like the day like it happened or whatever, I was just like waiting for the call to go to the hospital. So I'm like working, hospital. And then the next day I woke up, work, hospital, then work. Like it was just like every day was stacked. Like by the time I got to Kirsten texted me, I think it was Saturday, and she was like, how's it going? Or like, I hope you get some rest for yourself. Because I kept telling her, I was like, these are the things I have lined up that I have to get done. I have to do this. And she's like, and I was like, literally, I sit down to stop doing stuff and just fall asleep. Wherever I am, whenever it is, 9 p.m., 1 a.m., doesn't matter. Sit down, fall asleep.
That happened to Dan last week.
Oh, maybe it was in the air.
He
we don't really share a lot of the same air.
I was on the phone with Gabby and he left the room because sometimes when Gabby calls, it takes a long time to answer a simple question. He left the room. I finished the phone call with Gabby, finished cooking dinner, and he still hadn't come back down. So I walked up here and he was passed out. It was 7:30 in the evening. And I was like, what happened?
I'm telling you, every moment that I stopped and sat down and said, I'm done for the day, so was my body. Like I couldn't watch anything that wasn't like Bob's Burgers because like I don't want to miss it. And so like every night I had Bob's Burgers on, didn't even make it to the first 10 minutes of an episode ever. Not even once. It was like I'm just so tired because I've had so many like emotions and craziness this week that it's just like my body is done. But I'm good otherwise. Everything's great. It's well. How are you?
I went to the movies, which is only the second time this calendar year. So
I haven't gone this calendar year yet, which is wild for me.
Yeah. So I saw Thunderbolts.
How was it?
I really liked it. It was actually really good. And the funny thing was, Dan and I had been talking about maybe going bowling. And then he was like, so, the reviews for Thunderbolts are actually good. So
I saw that.
He was like, do you think we could put off bowling for a week and like go to Thunderbolts instead? And I was like, absolutely. Like, that's fine. I was like, either way, like the thing was his AP exam was Friday morning. So it's like my plan was just to have you out of the house doing something that could keep your attention off of stressing about the test because by Thursday night there's nothing else you can do about it.
Right.
So I was like, so my plan was to do something to distract you. Whether I don't care what it is. If going to the movies will be more distracting than bowling, let's go to the movies. Like that's my entire plan for having a night was for you to not be thinking about the test.
Right.
So we did. We saw Thunderbolts and it was solid. It was good. I don't want to spoil anything, but
no, of course I would kill you. I would quit the podcast on air.
For the 400th time.
But this won't be for real. Like you don't mess with Marvel.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it.
I've only heard good things about it. Like I want to see it so bad, but I'm so like I said tired. And I can only go on Tuesdays because it's so expensive to go to. It's like $20 or $30 a person to go to the movies if you want to get a popcorn.
I honestly don't even know what it costs because David bought the tickets and then
like $1,000 probably.
And then Dan bought all the concessions, so I paid nothing. I just
so they spent like $300 each.
Yeah, and I
It's
just
so expensive. So
um
yeah, so I can only go on Tuesdays when it's $5. But I thought about trying to go to the movies tomorrow because Thunderbolts is out and I want to see Sinners and whatnot. I don't know if the movie's
I
still out. Surely it is.
I
It's
still
new.
have I still haven't seen Sinners. It must still be out, but I still haven't seen it. And I was actually like talking about it. And obviously, like I am the world's biggest Haley Steinfeld fan. Just kidding, I'm
Mhm.
not. But everyone in Buffalo is.
You don't like Haley
No, no,
Steinfeld?
no. I do. I just mean that
Oh,
I just mean that I can't actually take the title for world's biggest fan because people
oh,
are insane.
I
Um,
don't know. I might be, but I've loved her.
I've always loved her. I've always loved her. But then like also the entire city of Buffalo, like literally, we literally have billboards that says she's the queen of our city. Like it's a
Yeah. Do
little.
they know headphones and hell knows though? Like, come at me. Come at me, Buffalo. Anyway,
Some of
sorry to
us
interrupt
do.
your. Yeah.
Some of us
Not you don't
do.
count. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the
Okay.
rest of Buffalo.
But I don't know if I want to watch Sinners. I'm a little nervous. It's a little freaky looking.
I did hear it was a little freaky, but it's a Jordan Peele movie, isn't it?
I don't even know.
I'm like 90% sure. I've kind of stayed away because I don't want to get spoilers because I know it's like it's supposed to be like the hit of the year, and so I don't look
Yeah.
at anything because I'm scared it's gonna be spoiled.
I've
But I'm like
literally
90% sure it's Jordan Peele.
I that makes sense. I've literally seen one clip of a scene that was must have been in a trailer or something, but I immediately was like, I don't think this is the movie that I thought it was.
I don't think it like if it's assuming it's Jordan, where people are gonna listen to this and be like, these
Idiots.
girls, they're so dumb. But like his movies are not scary. They're psychological and they're amazing, but they're not
So
like they
are
don't make me
okay.
want to like die afterwards.
So I well no, it wasn't in that way. It wasn't like I thought it was scary. I just literally go it was like a something that she said in the movie and I go, I don't think I knew what this movie was.
Oh, I for sure don't know what it's. I don't know the plot or anything. Like I for sure don't
Me
know
no
that.
no nothing. I know nothing. Um but it she says something incredibly sexual and I was like,
Oh,
oh, okay.
I mean sinners, you know.
Right. And I know
So like
people
maybe.
online have been like making memes of like Josh Allen crying like because when being like being around Michael B. Jordan and like, oh man, he's gonna
Well,
steal your girl. And I was like, good luck.
probably he might.
No. But
You don't like Michael B. Jordan? I'm obsessed with
no,
him.
no,
That's
no.
also.
It's not anything against Michael B. Jordan, but like people are like, oh, he's pretty, and that somehow makes a relationship. And like, I'm like, okay, but like, have you ever heard Josh Allen or Haley Steinfeld talk about each other? They're obsessed with each
I
other.
know. I know.
Like
Like Michael B. Jordan, I heard he's like a great guy too.
no,
Like from what
and I'm
I've
sure
heard.
he is, and I'm sure he is, but like, you can be a great guy and be a good actor and be attractive and just be friends with someone because she's obsessed with her
Right.
fiance. Like that's
Right. Which is fine. That's fine. That's fine.
um, but yeah, but I was like, I don't. But also, like, I loved Get Out. I never watched any of the other Jordan Peele movies.
I didn't watch Nope, but I watched something else.
Did you
I don't know what
watch
it was though.
Us?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because that
Maybe
one.
I watch Jordan Peele TV shows. I
Okay,
I think I don't.
because
Now that you're saying it, I'm like I don't know that I've seen his movies either,
I
but I've
think
watched TV
his
stuff
movies
he's.
are. I think they're scarier than I want them to be.
Well, Get Out wasn't that
No,
scary.
Get Out wasn't that scary, but Get Out was also his first one, and I think they've
Yeah,
gotten progressively
I
more
heard Nope
intense.
wasn't scary. I hope Nope was a little more like sci-fi-esque than
Okay.
the other
Oh,
ones.
apparently Us was like genuinely terrifying a little bit.
I heard Us was pretty scary, but I don't know. I'm excited. I'll do some homework and let you
Perfect.
know.
And maybe one day we'll know what we're talking about on this podcast.
We'll see. We only vaguely know what we're talking about, so
That's true.
it's in
But
our tagline.
valid. Um, could you maybe give us some words of encouragement that make it seem like we
Absolutely.
know more about what we're talking about?
That was part of what I was doing when I was not answering your call earlier, was looking for quotes because before I ran out last week.
Ooh, excuse me.
So I've procured 5 more, but I have to get to my favorites. Okay. I release myself from versions of me that I created to survive. I know. I just thought that was a nice little mantra. It's a little bit faster than some of the other ones, but
Yeah, but also that sounded very Norman Bates. Like, what would happen if he had,
No.
no, what would have happened if he actually successfully completed therapy? He would have released himself from
Oh,
birth.
post therapy,
Like,
I see.
yeah, like if Norman Bates had successfully
Yeah.
completed therapy, he would have released himself from versions of himself
Right.
that he created
Sure,
to
sure.
survive.
Sure. I was thinking me, but I also I am not like Norman Bates in the same way.
No,
That
no,
is not quite the
the
same.
versions of yourself you've created are not quite as
They're not quite
intense.
as insane. Um,
But yeah, so today we are talking about Stargate SG-1 Season 7, Episode 20, Inauguration.
didn't even read the title of this episode. I remember you had told me it was about like
About the
president,
president.
but I
Yeah.
didn't even read the title.
Um, it is rated 6.9 stars. I think that that's a little low. I think that it gets some negative feedback for being a clip show, but also at this point, we should be aware that Stargate does clip shows. Like, that's a thing.
But also like this wasn't as much of a clip show as
It
some of the other
sure
ones
wasn't, and
either.
I have things to say about that trivia wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think that it was a really good setup. I'm not saying it should be like an 8.5, but I think like a 7.2, 7.3 would be acceptable. I think 6.9 is a little low for what I
Fair.
um it did come out on Friday, March 5th, 2004. We have the same song, same book, and same movie. Nothing has changed there. But on this day, I read these things for this on this day and almost died. Because on this day, Martha Stewart was found guilty of conspiracy and obstruction of justice
No.
related to insider trading.
Not bestie Martha.
And as if that's not the wildest thing that could have happened, um, a salad bar dispute at a Red Robin in Ohio turned into a full-on brawl that escalated to the point of a lady having a severed thumb.
God, I wish I was there.
Right? I'm like reading this and I'm like, this is not real life.
That is so wild.
Beyond.
What a weird day.
What a weird day.
I was just listening to the new Keep It Weird episode and they talked about nope, this may have been old. That was listening to a Keep It Weird episode
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how like I had to be recent because they were talking about how like certain months seem like cursed or like you talk about Mercury retrograde, they think like there's certain months that have like the craziest stuff happening. And like some of it is obviously like climate reasons, like the hurricanes. Yeah, it's because of the temperature and whatnot. Sure. So there's
Right,
more
right, right, right.
in hurricane season. But like they were talking about how like there's more like attacks and stuff right before summer, and there's more like people who are called at certain times, and like it was just really wild. And so now I'm like, what else has happened March 5th? Like if
Like in
Martha gets
history?
arrested and Red Robins
Right.
has a lady cut her thumb off, those are really wildly different, but also
Wild.
equally insane things.
I mean, like just in general on March 5th, like what in all of history? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, like I don't what was March 4th like 5th like so my friend from high school, her birthday's March 4th. So now I'm like, what crazy things have happened during March 5th? Because like I don't remember a lot of crazy things happening on her birthday.
The Boston Massacre.
Oh, that's something. That's something
Yeah.
big.
That's something just a little big. Let's see. Going through. Oh, Hitler.
Full stop.
Yeah. 1933, eight of Hitler's Nazi Party received 43.9% of the Reichstag elections, which allowed the Nazis to pass the Enabling Act and establish a dictatorship. So it's quite literally the day that Hitlered.
I'm telling you, there's something to that.
This is wild. Yeah. Oh, Winston Churchill's Iron Curtain speech was on this day. Joseph Stalin died on March 5th.
I wonder if Martha knows this. Someone should tell her that the day she went to jail was the same day that all this happened in history.
Wow.
including
Man.
the thumb thing. That's very important that she knows
That
that as
is very
well.
important that she knows that as well. Um, yeah.
What a wild time to be alive.
Oh, Pope Francis went to Iraq to visit during the COVID pandemic.
R.I.P.
Yeah. So yeah, it's what a
March 5th, big
day.
day.
Big day. Um, Hugo Chavez died on this day.
Never did find out the guy I was talking about that was in court in Brooklyn.
It was not Hugo Chavez.
No, that is what I remember telling you is that it was
Yep.
not that. And now I'm like, never did go back to that again.
Yeah. So March 5th is
Pablo
cursed.
Escobar? That's recent,
Oh
right?
yes, yeah, Pablo
That's what
Escobar.
it
That's
was.
probably who it was. Okay.
That's who it was.
Yeah,
I was
so
there, tangentially, like in the city.
tangentially, you were in the city. You were not at.
No, I
You were
wanted to
not.
be.
You're not with Pablo Escobar.
I wanted to
Yeah.
be though.
So basically, March 5th is cursed, and I'm so sorry if that's your birthday because that is a fucking day.
I don't think I know any March 5th birthdays.
I
Just
don't.
the 4th.
I know third and fourth. I don't, and I know third and fourth and sixth, but I don't think I know any fifths.
Look.
Yeah. So this episode was directed by Peter Wost, written by Joseph Mosey and Paul Mully, featuring excerpts by Robert C. Cooper, Peter DeLuise, Damian Kindler, Joseph Mosey, Paul Mully, Catherine Powers, David Rich, Michael Shanks, Richard Wilkerson, and Brad Wright.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, this is gonna have clips in it. This is a clip episode.
Edited by Eric Hill. So nothing to talk about there. Our guest, though, is William Devane, who plays President Henry Hayes. He is known for Knots Landing, Payback, and Marathon Man. He
I know him from.
He often plays politicians. Like he has played politicians in 24. He's been in both in 24 and Stargate as the president. He played a senator in The West Wing. He has played RFK, JFK, and Al Capone in different movies.
Ooh, I would have never seen the Al Capone one.
And as somehow kismet to the fact that he has played every politician. His father was FDR's chauffeur in New York City when he was the governor of New York. So, you know,
what's his name again?
William Devane.
Dope. All right. I'm gonna figure out what I know him from.
I'm trying to think. There's something I forgot to look up of if it was him in it because it was something that I thought
he was president of Dark Knight Rises.
He was the president in Dark Knight Rises. Yes, he was the president in everything.
There's a couple episodes of Revenge. I watched that real hard.
What am I looking for? Oh no, there was someone else that I thought he looked like, but it is not him. I was thinking he looked very similar to the actor Ray Wise. Who also probably plays the president in a lot of random things. But that is unrelated. But yeah, I mean, but he is also, he's of the age where he does not really have social media presence. I can't really get a ton about him, but he has been in a boatload of things. Yeah, so we open at the White House where the new president is getting briefed about basically the world falling apart. Like it's just
I for sure thought he was Ray Wise. Now that I'm looking at Ray Wise,
yeah,
that is who I thought was in this episode.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, there's something that I think William Devane was in, and then I looked up that thing and I go, oh no, that was Ray Wise. Ray Wise and William Devane, I think they look very similar. Yeah. But so he's getting briefed about everything. You know, it's the first day of his presidency, and that he just keeps asking for like a minute to get adjusted, and it's like, it's so funny that you think that you have one.
I know.
You won't have one again for the next minimum 4 years, but cute. So he goes to have a meeting with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs who wants to brief him on something important. And he's like, I already got my security briefing. I'm good. I'm great. And he goes, the chairman is like, no, we need to do this. And he starts to brief him on the Stargate program, which he immediately thinks is a joke. And then we get the credits.
What a time.
What
What a
a
time.
time. Um, yeah. So then after the credits, we find out the really horrible fat news of the episode, and that Kinsey is in his office because Kinsey is the vice president. And the president busts in and basically is like, "What the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Like,
Fair.
what did you get me into?"
Mhm.
Um, so we find out Kinsey's a VP, and he immediately goes for the kill. And he's like, "Okay, listen, you're the president now. I want you to overhaul the SGC. I want you to get rid of all of them." And he's like, "Just cut the crap and tell me what is going on." Like, I've been the president for 5 minutes, and I find out that you have secretly been running an organization for 7 years that you then didn't tell me about while I was your running mate. Um, So Hayes goes through the files and begins discussing the program with the chairman, who admits that Kinsey definitely has his own agenda when it comes down to this. And
For sure.
we get our first flashback, and we get a flashback to season 6, episode 17, Disclosure, where Kinsey is talking to the other heads of state, and we find out that he wants the NID to take over direct control of the Stargate away from the military. Um, General Maynard, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, says that it was because that Kinsey was about to become the chairman of the uh, Intelligence Oversight Committee that he wanted the NID to take over. And so we know Maynard has no patience for Kinsey's bullshit from the get-go. And we get our second flashback from the same episode of Disclosure where the Asgard intervention saved the SGC from Kinsey. Um, yeah.
I like looked away.
Mm.
I was saying preach, I wasn't actually raising my hand,
Oh,
but
okay.
I do have something to say still.
Great.
So I had actually looked away at this moment. When I looked back, I saw Thor and I was like, was I right? Is Thor this episode? And then I realized it was a flashback. And I was like, oh, I mean, I was still kind of right, but like,
Yeah, but so then Hayes is questioning basically Kinsey's motives and his morals. He's like, I really don't know if I knew who I was getting into the White House with. Like, um, and then our dear friend Richard Woolsey goes to check in on Kinsey, and who's basically using Woolsey to help convince Hayes to clean house. He has had Woolsey put together a presentation to take to the president about all the reasons why we should get rid of Stargate Command as it is now. But Hayes invites General Maynard to sit in on the meeting with Woolsey and Kinsey because he was like, I don't think it's fair for you guys to tell me all this stuff without someone from the military there to like um rebut anything that you may or may not have to say. And Maynard is pissed off that he's there and Hammond isn't. He was like, I really think that if you're going to question how General Hammond is running the SGC, he should be a part of this conversation. But sure. Um, Hayes is like, okay, listen, before we start whipping our dicks out to see who's bigger, I want hard evidence. Like, I'm not making any decisions without knowing what is actually happening. So Woolsey starts by blaming Hammond for Janet's death. So, like, strong start. And Maynard is.
I don't know how this minute happened and no one was murdered in the second.
Yeah.
Like, just pull out a gun and shoot him and take it. Just.
Yeah. And Maynard looks like he's about to.
I thought he was. I thought he was going to do something more than be
Yeah.
professional, and then he didn't.
And so then Kinsey joins in on the bashing and he's like starting to like take over Woolsey's shit. And Hayes is basically like, it sounds like you're campaigning. This is well rehearsed political bullshit and I don't want it. Tell me the reality or tell me nothing. Like we're in a private office, like informational session in my office with just 4 people who have the security clearance. Shut the fuck up.
Yup.
So Woolsey is like, okay, well, to start, every single member of SG-1 is guilty of insubordination. Which, to be fair, yes, they are.
It's true. However,
get done. So then we get our first evidence flashback, and this is to season 4, episode 3, upgrades, where we got the weird implant from the Tok'ra that turned them all into like super metahumans for a hot second, and then Jack and Sam almost told each other that they loved each other.
Sure. Like every other episode, yeah.
Yeah, this was the first really big one though.
Right. Mhm.
So then so we get the scene that we get though is SG-1 hacking the gate to escape, even though the base is on lockdown, and they don't let Teal'c come with them, and they go. And Maynard's like, yeah, but like they knocked out an entire Goa'uld ship, so like no love lost there. And Wolsey's like,
Right.
still, it is. Yeah, he's like they got lucky that their results were good because they fucked up. Like, um, and Maynard is like, okay, but you have to remember, like, they weren't really being insubordinate. It wasn't their fault. They were under the influence of an alien device. And Wolsey's like, yeah, about that. And pulls out a wild stack of files of times where the SG-1 was taken over by alien technology. And as people who watch the show and love SG-1, we're like, hey, fuck you. Objectively, though, he's got a point.
However, so here's my thing. Here is how was this never a counter argument? Sure, this happened to them, but who would it have not happened to? Like, none of them went in
Valid.
knowing, like, one, what was going to happen, how aliens work. They now, even at the points they were taken over, know way more than people outside of SG-1 and outside of SGC. So, like, even though it happened to them and it sucks and it's like, yeah, we have to fix this, like, it would have probably happened to him, and most likely it would have been worse.
Yes,
So,
no, I agree with you. I just think it's pretty damning evidence to be like, here's our front line of defense, and all of
right,
the times that they were not able to defend us.
sure,
So he starts with Sam's file, and we get a flashback to season 4, episode 20, Entity, where Sam is inhabited by that weird, crazy alien energy that almost blows up the entire base. And then Woolsey's like, and if you think that's bad, let's move on to Daniel Jackson and just starts listing all of the things that have happened to Daniel.
I do understand he went like in order of like we're not going to do Jack in the middle. We're going to do Jack next, like next last, and Hammond and stuff because it's a ranking. But like truly, if you were looking for like the most damning evidence, you should put Daniel back last. You should like here's the top
Facts. But the reason they do Daniel where they do him is because Sam's like, okay, it happened like twice, and she really like isn't that big of a problem. We have to talk about that. And then Daniel's not military, so we can't really do anything about him anyway.
Right.
Until
Like I understand
the ordering, there is a logic, but also you're right. Who is
but it's like what is the quote? Oh, what is the John Mulaney quote? I'm homeless.
The three things about me. Oh
Yeah.
God, what is it? The three things, something, the three.
And I'm gay. It's like homeless and something and then gay or something. But they like, oh God.
Oh yeah, what are the other three things about me? Excuse me, I'm homeless, I'm gay, I have AIDS, and I'm new in town.
And I'm new in town. That's it.
I'm homeless, I'm gay, I have AIDS, and I'm new in town. What are three other things about him?
Right. That's how this felt. Was like, okay, so you whacked us in the face in the middle, and the last things are just like, okay,
Yeah.
those don't seem so bad now. Like if you're working against your argument.
Yeah, Daniel is the I have AIDS of this conversation.
Yeah. For sure, for sure.
And so then we get a flashback to season 5, episode 21, Meridian, which with the moment of when Daniel actually ascends. Then Woolsey takes his next shot and rips into Teal'c just for being an alien. And he's like, and then on top of the fact that we can't trust him because he's an alien, he went back to Apophis. And we have a flashback to season 5, episode 1, Enemies, where Teal'c attacks the SG-1 team for Apophis. And Maynard's like, it wasn't his fault. He was brainwashed. And Woolsey's like, great. So our front line of defense is easily susceptible to brainwashing. Sounds healthy.
Bro, so is everyone here to alien brainwashing? Come on.
Yeah, but like, how do you know that?
But like, what do you want to do? Test everyone and then everyone fail, and now we've ruined our entire defense
I
force?
think yes. I think that's what he wants.
That doesn't feel like the logical one. That doesn't feel the logical way.
Um, and Woolsey moves on to Jack, who he deems to be the worst of all of the failures.
Sure. Yeah, of
And
course.
he starts listing all of Jack's mistakes. And we get a flashback to season 2, episode 16, The Fifth Race, where Jack gets the entire ancient database downloaded into his brain.
However, if they watch the whole episode, this is also where he befriended Thor and like set up an
Uh,
alliance for life. Like you don't get to just cut off
yeah.
half the episode and then try to blame him. You know?
Well, and Woolsey's like, he would have died if it weren't for this other alien race. So really, it's not even the SG-1 who's helping us, it's these other aliens. And Hayes is like, did you ever stop for like 1 second to think about what it must be like? Like, how are they sane? What is going on? And
Also,
Woolsey,
why would they help us if it weren't for SG-1? Like they're gonna just randomly help a
right.
different race?
Yeah, but Hayes is basically like, this is what they do every day, and they haven't fucking
I know.
offed themselves? What are you? And Woolsey's just like, my point exactly. They are not stable. And I'm like, bitch.
Every time he was like, yes, absolutely. It's like, no, that's not, you don't understand what's happening here.
But then he was like, we need, well, I wish I had written down exactly what his quote was about their, why, like, what to do about them.
I don't remember. I was trying to think.
He says, this is, how can we trust these individuals? Nope. Come on, give me the best quote. Inauguration. Oh, I found the entire transcript of the episode.
Oh,
That's
perfect.
um wow, it's a long one.
Yeah, a lot, I didn't realize how many shows actually
There's
post transcripts for their shows, but a lot of them
yeah.
do.
He says, nope, that's how do I control F on my phone?
Nope. I don't think that's a thing you can do on your phone. Um, yeah, I didn't realize how many shows put their transcripts until like one day I realized
Yeah.
they talked about like I don't remember where I was working on. I was working on something and they were like, yeah, this is like one of like two or three South Park transcripts that aren't on the internet anymore because the
Yeah.
like episodes have been removed. And so I
Yeah.
was like, huh, that's like it's so smart to like have them up there and
Yeah.
like whatever, but
I found it. So he says, we can no longer allow the Pentagon to look the other way. The number of times that members of FG1 have been compromised should have warranted at least a reconsideration of their off-world status. Transfers to a less decisive position. A couple of sick days, for God's sake.
I will say, like, I don't necessarily think we need to transfer them. We don't have to stop sending them off world. However,
Give them a
I do
fucking
think
vacation.
like you think about with like police officers when they like if they get into like incidents in like the field or
Yeah.
whatever, they have mandated therapy and like time
Yes.
off. And I'm
Correct.
like, these people are like having shootouts with aliens, and then they
Yeah.
just show up 30 minutes later for their next mission. Like, I'm down for making them have mandatory days off. Like,
Yeah.
that's totally fine.
It got darker faster than I wanted it to, and I'm trying to see if I can reach the light with the clipboard, and I can't.
I thought
But
Dan was handing you something.
no, I wish he's at rehearsal.
Oh yeah, it's Monday.
Yeah. So where was I? Oh, and Hayes is like, you can read files all you want, but none of us actually understand what they're going through. And Woolsey's like, I agree with you, but I think that that's why I want there to be more scrutiny. I told you that like last time when Woolsey was there and he was being a real prick, I told you that I have a little bit of a soft spot for him, and I think it's the same soft spot I have for the director, where like, and we find out more as this episode goes on, but like Woolsey is not a bad person. Woolsey is just very much like I don't understand why we don't want everyone to be held to the highest standards at all times for the truth
Right.
of everything always. Like there is no gray for him. He does not exist in a world where there is gray, which is a really shitty thing to do in a world like this. Like Could you imagine trying to live and work in Washington, D.C. and believing that there is no gray?
Absolutely not. I can't, like, I mean every day. I don't
Yeah.
even know that it matters what job you work in.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like, but like such a high powered job to have to do it in, no.
Such a
Why?
high-powered job that is so famous for moral ambiguity.
Right, right.
So Hayes is like, why don't we just like take a break from the meeting? Um, and what's it? And Kinsey freaks out and says that Kinsey freaks out to Hayes and is like, you're taking their side. You don't trust me. And Hayes is like, I just need more time to understand what's going on.
Really, like, I don't know how crazy contingency is coming in with like, you learned about Stargate 5 minutes ago, and I'm gonna throw in your face with all the intensity I can that I want you to cancel it. Like, if you were smart, I know Kenzie's not, I get that. But like if you were doing the smart thing, you would slowly introduce him to things, and then
Yeah.
you would start bringing up like, here's some concerns I have in a rational way. And then it's not gonna happen overnight, which he seems to want it to happen right now.
Yeah.
But like within the next couple months, you might could get him to shut down Stargate. Like if you continually introduce
Yeah, if
things in
you
a rational
calm down.
way,
Because
right?
Kinsey can't be calm. Kinsey then threatens him and says, like, don't forget that I'm the one who got you here to this office. And Hayes said, I'm going to read what the transcript says that he says because my notes say Hayes says, sit down, be humble. Like,
That is what he says.
he
That
says,
is what
yeah.
he says.
Because he says, I'm here, Bob, because the people of this nation elected me to run their country, not the whole damn galaxy. And this is my office, Bob, not yours, no matter what you may think you did to make this happen. And don't you for 1 second forget that. It's like, okay, Kendrick.
I know. I know.
Um, so after the break is done, they come back to continuing to discuss this, and Woolsey continues his smear campaign. And we get a flashback to season 6, episode 13, Sight Unseen, where we have the lovely incidents of the weird bugs that escaped the
I was
SGC.
like, okay, this one's a little bit rougher to like argue against because it affected the outside world, not just the like Stargate world.
Yeah, and Maynard was like, everything was taken care of. We had a cover story. Like, we're good. Nobody remembers anything. And he's like, and Maynard says, as long as their mandate involves acquiring alien technology, they're going to risk themselves to acquire alien technology. Like I don't really
Right.
understand what
Like
you're
that's
saying
the
right
job.
now. And then Woolsey brings up the gate virus. And at this point, Maynard is fuming. Um, and he's like, this is not gonna happen. Like you gotta shut up. And Woolsey's like, and if you think that it ends there, well, don't forget that General Hammond is in on this inability to make rational decisions himself. And we get a flashback to season 4, episode 15, Chain Reaction, where Hammond left the gate open under fire to give SG-1 more time. Actually, I don't think this was from Chain Reaction. I had a hard time trying to piece together some of the clips. I was like looking at the list of episodes that there was clips from and trying to piece together, and a couple of them were very innocuous clips.
Yeah.
This one I don't actually think is from that episode. I don't know. But it's Hammond delaying closing the iris even though the base was under attack so that SG-1 could get in. That could have been every episode this season or the series.
Sure.
So then Woolsey aims at more personal relationships. He brings up the list of all of Daniel's girlfriends who have been gawoolded.
Fair, valid argument.
And then Teal'c's family being attacked. And then he's like, and don't get me started on Jack and Sam. And
Please start it on Jack and Sam.
Hayes is like, Woolsey, are you suggesting that Colonel O'Neill and Major Carter have an inappropriate relationship? And Kinsey hops in and was like, damn Skippy, they do. And they bring up Sam's erratic behavior when Jack went missing. And we get a flashback to season 6, episode 15, Paradise Lost, when Sam yells at Dr. Lee for not working harder to save Jack. And and Maynard is like, if that's your evidence, you have nothing. I don't understand what you're saying right now.
Like even people you're not in a relationship with, if you spend that much time and you have that much of like a
Correct.
even a working relationship with them, you're gonna
Yes.
act out like that when they're missing. Like
Right. Yeah. Um, and Hayes is like, okay, we've heard enough. I'm done with all of these conversations. And the meeting ends. And then we see Woolsey going back to see Kinsey privately, and he's like, I don't think it went well. And Kinsey's like, it went fine. He'll come around. It'll be great. And he's like, I'm pretty sure the president is not on our side. And then Kinsey basically threatens to make the president disappear if he doesn't get on their side.
this guy, I can't. I can't.
And Woolsey looks thankfully as uncomfortable about that as we do.
Mm-hmm.
Then General Maynard goes to talk to Hayes separately, and they're discussing Kinsey's political angle for all of this. And and Hayes says, like, at the end of the day, it does kind of make sense because the program is going to eventually go public. And having people that he can throw his weight behind that don't scare the American public being behind the Stargate program is probably a better way to ease them into it. Like, you're going to trust a diplomat running something more than you're going to be like, oh, the military has a secret operation they never told us about.
Sure,
And so,
to be fair.
and so he gets that. And he's like, I just want to smooth the process by putting someone I can put my weight and the belief of the American people behind. And Maynard is like, can I explain why, like, that's not gonna work?
Well,
And
can I tell you that them wanting a diplomat says military because you don't want the military to be something who's behind me all this time because they do it all the time. And so anytime something new comes out, we're like, again, you've done this again.
yeah.
Like, so I get it, but it's like it's your own fault too. Like you've hidden a lot of stuff that you've been released and shocked the world with. So now it's your fault that you set the stigma for yourself.
But in a fact that we don't learn this episode, but I think is I'm gonna say because it doesn't actually spoil it for you because you have already seen the episode where we do find it out. And I think it's really important. Hayes is military.
Right.
We don't know that for sure, and often there are like in the modern era we have less commanders in chief who were military, but in historically that was always true.
That was a little more common, yeah.
And Hayes is former military, so part of it is probably that he has seen enough negative reaction to the military. And it's not that he is like an anti-military president.
Right.
It's that he's I've seen how badly this can go point of view. And I believe he never made it to a high enough rank to have been a person making those kinds of decisions in the military.
Well, I also feel like even without like knowing that this episode, I feel like you get the feeling that he's not doing this because he's anti-military.
Right.
Because he doesn't have faith. Like you truly see him thinking about this from a logical standpoint. Like I never thought of it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like politicians make bad decisions.
Yeah.
The people in the military make bad decisions. But the difference is people in the military don't often tend to make quote unquote bad decisions until they reach a certain rank. Everybody else below that is just following orders. Right. And so if he were to never have reached general, he doesn't have the same like, oh, I was the one pulling the trigger and it was wrong situation. As he might as a politician. But he also does have the experience of having been the person in uniform getting shit thrown at them for being a part of a bad decision. So it's a really interesting position to come at it from. So I don't hate him for...
No, and I don't think it's illogical at all.
No.
I think
and it's also like if he had been the president that greenlit this and he had a say in building it, it would be one thing. But to come in on your first day and find out something that is 7 years in the making, which means there's only so long you can hide something like that from. So it's going to come out sooner rather than later, and you don't have any influence on what happened or what's going to happen. That's a scary place to be in politically.
Yeah, and I have opinions on how can be handled better, but I'm gonna save that for next episode because it's a little more relevant next episode.
Okay. Well, next episode will be interesting because it's a cliffhanger. So,
It's okay. I
um,
have a lot of feelings still. Don't
nothing,
worry.
nothing gets resolved. Nothing gets resolved
Yeah.
next week. But Maynard then basically gets President Hayes up to speed on Anubis and what the actual threat right now is and where we're at in terms of the quote unquote war with the Goa'uld and how it's not a theoretical thing. And we get a flashback to season 7, episode 1, Fallen, where post Daniel's drop from Ascension, Anubis begins his journey of taking out the other Goa'uld ships. Um, and Maynard explains that we're next on his list. And we get a flashback to Evolution Part 1, which is season 7, episode 11, and that is where we first meet the Call Warriors. And he explains that it is not just one super soldier coming after us. We get a flashback to Evolution Part 2, season 7, episode 12, where we see the full Cull army.
And we only have Captain America and Bucky. We're like really behind with only 2 super soldiers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. You should watch Thunderbolts. Anyway.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
So Hayes wonders how SG-1 is even supposed to make a difference against them. He's like, if this is true, if this is really what we're up against, how are 4 people like going to be that make or break in this situation? So Maynard tells him about the Lost City and the Ancients and everything that we have come up with and figured out so far. We get a flashback to season 3, episode 20, Maternal Instinct, where we meet Omidasala for the first time as a ancient light spirit, not her physical form,
Right.
where she takes the Heresis baby. And Hayes thinks it's ridiculous that the ancients won't help them. He's like, so they have all this information and they're doing what about it? And I mean, I was like, we kind of think we're beneath them. And he's like, what the fuck? And
but okay.
Yeah, valid. And then we get a flashback to season 6, episode 22, the finale of last season, Full Circle, where Daniel tells Jack all about the tablet and what they have found and what they understand about the ancients so far. So Maynard asks if we can just let SG-1 find the city before we have this conversation about getting rid of them. And Hayes says it's not that simple, and he can't just cross Kinsey on this one because he doesn't know if he can protect him and SG-1 in the fallout if he does try to stop things from going the direction that they're going. So Woolsey goes behind Kinsey's back to have a conversation with General Maynard on his own. And he's like, I don't think I knew who I was working for. I think Kinsey is shady. And Maynard is like, I don't disagree, but I can't do anything without proof. You need proof. Because having a gut feeling that this guy's a dick is not how you take down the vice president of the United States.
Correct. And if that is your only thing, is that he is a dick, even if you have proof.
I think that if taking down the vice president of the United States was as easy as saying, I have a gut feeling that this guy's kind of a dick, I don't think we would have ever had a vice president.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. It's like that's not a like even like if you can be a dick and that's not really a qualification or a disqualification for being a VP.
Yeah.
Like you're still allowed to be VP even if everyone hates you. Like
yeah. So Wolsey goes to see Hammond and he says, my job in this, my feelings in life are to be impartial at all costs. So I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I'm on your side. I still don't think you should be running the SGC. However, I think that there might be a bigger issue here. And I think that Kinsey might be up to something way worse than your negligence. And we get a flashback. We get a flashback to episode 614, Smoke and Mirrors, when Kinsey almost gets assassinated. And Woolsey thinks that we can get evidence about Kinsey's illegal doings from Hammond. And Hammond's like, why do you think that I would have know anything about it? And he's like, because you were blackmailed, and I think Kinsey was behind it. And we get a flashback to season. This is when we get a flashback that I know is to Chain Reaction, and this is when Jack and Mayborn are holding Kinsey up in and to get the information about Hammond's blackmail off of his computer.
Yeah.
So Hammond gives Woolsey the floppy disk from Mayborn and says he never gave it up because he didn't know who to trust, and to be honest, he still doesn't. But and Woolsey does the right thing and takes the information to the president and drops it on his desk, and the episode ends. So yeah, big changes coming.
Yeah.
That's why, obviously, yes, this is a clip show in a sense. But I feel like this is the beginning of a huge shift in this narrative of
And it
Stargate.
wasn't a ton of clips. Like you feel like I feel like what was the first or second one we saw was just like all clips, basically. And like
Yes.
this one it was like just context flashbacks is what it
Yes.
felt like more than anything. So I didn't it didn't feel like a true clip show for me, even though it was a true clip show. It didn't feel
Yeah.
that way watching it.
Which, and that's because, so of the 43 minutes of runtime of this episode, there are 17 clips, and they take up a total of 7 minutes and 42 seconds of screen time. So they're not even a, like, barely a quarter of the episode is clips. And that was a really deliberate. So, Jomo, our dear friend Jomo, when he found out from Robert and Brad that he was going to need to do a clip show in because, not always in charge of everything, and based on the budget and the way other two-parters have gone and the like lineup of the season and what they had going on, they needed, for budget purposes, a clip show.
Right.
And Jomo was very upset. He did not want to do a clip show, but he decided to make the best out of it and to use as few clips as he could and to get around that by changing the format of the episode. So there are no regular cast members in this episode aside from that one episode or the one scene with Hammond, which obviously, if you don't have to pay your four largest moneymakers for screen time, it changes your budget. So he decided to, rather than make it a complete clip show, he would supplement clips with a very compelling story that didn't use any of our regular characters.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel like this was a really like I don't know, obviously I've only seen one since this, but it feels like a necessary episode to have. Like,
yeah,
especially since we're about to have so many big changes. We're about to have Atlantis, we're about to have all of this stuff happen. And like it feels like we needed something like this to kind of like anchor us back to where we're at before we
yes,
jump forward.
yes, and like I have said, the timing of when they found out that they were going to not be canceled is a little confusing to me. I don't know exactly when in production it was because they didn't film the last half of the season in order.
So my understanding, I saw something when I was looking at like cliffhangers, and I was looking up cliffhangers to be clear. Let me be clear there. I was not looking up spoilers, but I saw that the only season that they that they didn't know in any season if it was gonna be
Yeah,
canceled or not until after it was over. From the beginning, like they didn't know until after the season had officially
that is
finished filming.
not true for this one.
That's not true.
It is not true for this one. For this season, and we will talk about it more next week because it has to do with the two-parter for the season finale. The two-parter that is the season finale was originally intended to be a movie after the end of the season, and they found out mid-production that they were going to be able to get the eighth season, and so they changed that movie to be a two-part season finale. However,
Gotcha.
I do know that they filmed the second half of the season out of order, and I know that they worked on the two-part season finale prior to the episode that Amanda Tapping directed from last week. I don't know where this falls into that. So like that's why I said I know that they didn't find out post production about the about a new season, but I also don't know where in production this episode falls to know how much of it was like a we know what's coming after, or how much of it was
Yeah.
just a really good story.
Hmm.
Um, my couple little tiny fun trivia things, other than the stuff that I already talked about, is that the Oval Office set that we use for Stargate is the same from the X2 movie.
Oh, how fun!
So Robert Picardo, William Devane, and Ronnie Cox are obviously three of the four characters that are actually in this whole episode, and they're three fairly well-known TV and movie actors from an older generation. And so the women in the production office for Stargate were like really, really excited and obsessive with the fact that
Ooh la
these three men,
la!
and basically they spent all of their time where they weren't filming signing autographs for all the fangirling like ladies in the production
Oh,
office.
that's so cute.
um yeah. So it is a clip show, but it isn't a clip show. And like I said, I'm really I'm really excited to do the research I have to do when we get to the season 7 wrap up episode, because I feel like there are a lot with where we're at in the show, in the arc of the Stargate universe. I feel like there's a lot to say for the end of season 7. So and
Mhm.
we're getting there. We're getting there.
Eek.
So do you have any other thoughts?
I have so many, but I feel like I should just save them because I feel like this is going to be kind of a long episode. But I just want to talk about the military again. I feel like, I'm not saving this one because it's going to
No.
bother me.
Yeah.
Um, so they talk about, he goes through this whole like file of here's where they messed up. Here's how they went too early or they held on too long or whatever. And like, fine. That's fine to criticize that. However, this happens in regular military acts
Yeah.
too. Like this happens when we go into just like foreign territory that's not in a different galaxy. Like if you're going to criticize that, you got to change your whole military scheme because you've trained
No,
them this.
I 100% agree, but I also think that that's exactly why Hayes is making the decisions he's making. Because I mean, think about
Right.
in podcast land, because we all know I listen to podcasts a decade after they
Hmm.
air because I can't
Sure.
keep up with anything in my
Sure.
entire life. I'm currently in September of 2016 in my
Hmm.
re-listening to the podcast, which means I am right at the height of Trump versus Hillary.
Hmm.
Um, so obviously, even my non I do listen to some political podcasts, but even my non-political podcasts, it bleeds into
Or
a little bit
political. Yeah. Yeah.
because 2016 was a circus.
Right.
Um, but it's fascinating because you look at that election and how many times in that election did whether we made the right decision to go into Iraq or not come up? Neither Hillary or Trump had a single thing to do with that decision. And
Right.
it was a massive ramification on their political campaigns.
Hmm.
So for Hayes to sit there as a military man in the White House being told the military is making the wrong decisions, and as a civilian, I think they're making the wrong decisions, he absolutely has to be like, you know what? Not going to let that be what the American public takes out of this situation.
Right. Which is
I
fair, but I'm saying if Kinsey and them are going to push, I know Kinsey just hates
Well,
SG-1
Kinsey's a piece of
1.
shit,
I understand
and
his
he's the
angle.
epitome of what's wrong with everything.
Right. But like Woolsey is making this really big argument that he really believes in because of SGC. And I'm like, you have to turn a camera around. Like he's not military, but like you have to, if you're saying this for the military that's going into different galaxies, you need to look at the military that's going
I
into
think he
Russia. You need to
would.
look at the military. I think
I,
he would too. I think he would too.
I
But
think that Woolsey truly, genuinely is one of the few characters that has no agenda.
yeah, I mean, I don't know him super well, obviously, but like
I
I
mean,
think so
and
too.
I'm just saying this based on what we've seen so far. I'm not even
Yeah.
basing this on what happens in the future. I'm saying this based on the two episodes we've seen him in so far.
Right.
He truly seems to be a like black and
What is
white
it?
numbers, like
Yeah.
you know, have you ever seen the Paddington movies? I think we've talked about this. You have not seen
I
them,
have
right?
not. No.
Okay. So the dad of the Paddington movies, is his job is a risk analyst, and he
Hmm.
like like in his sleep is calculating the percentage of a risk of something that could possibly go wrong. And like there's a lot of really funny things in the movies about him like not letting his kids do things because of the risk analysis that he's like doing in his head about these things. And of course, can you
I've seen that in
imagine?
other movies.
Yeah, and could you imagine what Paddington does to his risk analysis? Having a
God
bear
bless his heart.
and the number of
Yeah.
times that he's like the percentage of like damage to your house by having a bear enter your house. He's just like can't handle it.
Bless.
But like that's what I see Woolsey as. I see him, he's truly running the numbers as a risk analyst and saying this is not a good choice to protect us.
Right.
But he's doing what I also think a lot of people who run the numbers in their head and are the numbers peoples for situations, especially in politics, do. And he's telling you this is the wrong choice, but if you tell him what is the right choice, he doesn't have an answer.
Right. And like I think I'd be a really good risk analysis. I'm not great at numbers, to be fair. However, I am very good at the analysis part. Is I think if you gave me enough data, and I'm really good at the hyper focus part where I would find
Yeah.
all the data I needed to go off
Yeah.
of, that I could like do
But
that.
I
And I
think,
think Woolsey can, but I think he misses that gray area, like you say, because you have to
well,
factor that
he
in.
does. He does, but I think that he is like most people in things like insurance or data analysis
Mhm.
where he can do it. He doesn't have the opinion, like he doesn't have the creative thinking or the opinion or the foresight to
Mhm.
say, okay, this is what's wrong, but this was what will be better. And to be honest, I think that that is a massive problem in general in the way we run things because I think
100%.
when it comes to educational policies, when it comes to immigration policies, when it comes to like medical policies, people are really good at telling you this is what is not going well and this is where
Yep.
the problem lies. But then you try to put a committee together to say, okay, I agree, but what do I do next? Suddenly nobody has a fucking clue.
When I went from being director level of everyone who's making all the decisions, doing all the things, and having no guidance and doing them whatever way I wanted to and figuring out what worked best, to going to data entry to see and start asking questions about how things are run, it is wildly different because I have a lot of things to say and I don't say most of them because
Well,
no
and
one's gonna do
it's,
anything about
I
it right
think,
now. But like
yeah,
it's so wild to me to see like now from a bottom level side of it is like here's all the issues and like I'm the one finding the issues and I'm
yeah.
also seeing that no one's fixing them or that no one knows how to fix them. You ask me like that's just the way it is and I'm like but
But
why?
why?
Like if you can't just say that's the way it is, like 10 years ago maybe that's the way it was for a reason, but we're 10 years older now. Like
Yeah. I mean,
you
and
have to evolve.
that's the biggest problem in education as well, because you can
Hmm.
ask a teacher what's going wrong in their classroom and how they would fix it, and every teacher has an answer.
Hmm.
But no administrators, no educational policy makers, no one who is telling us what we are allowed to do can answer that question.
Well, because you guys are boots on the ground, you're seeing it happen. Like you're
Yeah.
the ones interacting and seeing not only the education system evolving, but the way that like kids are raised evolving. Like
Yeah.
kids are different than they were 10 years ago. It's just
Facts.
how it is. And
However,
like,
that would make me like that when you put it in that perspective, I would be the Jack O'Neill of the educational world though, because the number of times that I know what the rule is, I know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not going to
yeah,
because it's not correct and it's not
right.
appropriate and it's not fair.
Hmm. Yeah. I
And
mean, I'm with you. That's me too. So
so I while I understand Woolsey and I appreciate what he's trying to do, I would much rather have 100 Jack O'Neills making my decisions.
oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why you have to have partnerships for stuff like that. You have the numbers people, and then you have the people who analyze and do the real world outcome of it.
yeah, there isn't one of those on SG-1 though.
Right, right, right. So that's what I'm saying. This is my solution to your
Sam,
problem.
Sam really wants to be.
Sam is probably the closest.
Yeah, no, Sam really wants to be. She
Hmm.
does know the numbers. She does know the correct answer, but she is gonna pick her feelings.
Yeah. And she sometimes jumps in steps too, where it's like you can't just go from A to Z. Like you know what A is, you know what Z is, but there's a middle that has to happen first, or it's just gonna everything's gonna blow up. And I feel like sometimes she skips the middle a little bit.
Sometimes the only answer is to blow things up, though.
Right, that's fine, that's fair. But it's not every time.
It's not every time.
It's not every time.
Well, with that, other
Do you have trivia
than
or anything, or did we
no,
like?
we did the trivia already.
Okay, great, excellent.
Yeah. So my real final question is, who do you want to punch?
Who do I want to find? Huh, Kinsey.
Yeah. Kenzie is the only option, and there are only four characters in this episode. So I think by virtue of the fact that you picked Kenzie, I do have to pick Woolsey, even though I don't fully disagree with him. Um, and I do really appreciate the fact that he's like, can we just give them a fucking PTO day?
Right,
Like,
right. I do
but
fully agree with that.
at the same time, he's really good at being like, what you said is exactly why you're wrong. And I don't like that.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that. I didn't feel punch worthy, but you're right. There's not any other
There's
option.
no other option. Yeah,
So like, yeah,
exactly. It wasn't as punch worthy as other choices in the past episodes of the show have been, but since my only other options were Maynard, Hayes, and Hammond, I have to
sure.
pick him. Which brings
Absolutely.
us to the MVP.
So I was a little split, but I think I'm ultimately gonna go with Hayes.
Okay.
Like I was split with Maynard too, but I think I'm gonna go with Hayes just because he he hasn't yet fallen into Kinsey's trap. He is trying to stand on his own 2 feet as president and saying, like, I do make these calls.
Yeah.
This is my role. And maybe that's the call I'm gonna make, but it's gonna be because I've spent time figuring out if it's the right call or not. Like I'm not
Right.
just gonna like bow to what you want because you think you got me here.
Yeah.
So
And that's fair. I'm gonna pick Maynard because he is like, please don't talk to me about how the military works. Sure.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So that's yeah. So that is, like I said, don't feel like it should be 6.9. Don't think it's groundbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah, now that we talk more about it, I think it could have been a little higher.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go into IMDb and rate it unreasonably high just to skew
Ooh,
it.
do it. Do it.
So, with that, if you have any thoughts, feelings, criticisms of the US military, don't actually email us
Please
criticisms of
don't
the
put that
US
in
military
writing.
because I do not want that to be in my email inbox. I do not want the FBI to
Mm-mm,
come for me. Um,
mm-mm, not today. Wait, at least wait till after I take the bar and the ethics exam.
yeah. Wait till I care, which will be never.
Sure. That too.
Um, yeah, but if you have any thoughts about this show, please feel free to email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com or follow us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can find me at CE Cloud 13.
And with that, we will see you on Thursday for another episode of Thriller Thursday. Bye.
Bye.